Okay, I will call to order the Long Range Planning Committee on Thursday, September 14th, 2023 at 10 a.m. Beth, would you please call the roll?
Bertucci,
Present.
Felix,
Here.
Livergood, Lemke,
Here.
McNulty,
Here.
and Smith.
Here.
And for CCS, we have Rebecca Malinowski and Beth Stoneberg.
All right. Are there any additions to the agenda? We received the agenda last week. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to public comment. Okay, no members of the public. We did get a copy of the June 20th meeting minutes. May I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Move to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
And a second. All right, and Beth, can you please call the roll?
Wait.
Just confirming.
Just 1 second on that. There's a thing that says find more Illinois, like in number 8. And while I think Illinois would love to find us more, it should be find more is the only thing.
Oh,
It just
sorry.
made me laugh. And number 8.
Thank you, Robin. I will correct
but I think
that.
we should support the finding more. I think that would be good. But
I see that now. Thank you.
okay.
Thank you, Robin.
All right.
Okay, we had a first and a second.
And I have Diane as a second. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you, Diane. All right, I'll take roll. Bertucci,
Yes.
Felix,
Here. Oh, but yes.
Lemke,
Abstain since I wasn't there.
McNulty,
Yes.
and Smith.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I will turn it over to Rebecca.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for coming to the meeting today. As I noted in the documents that we sent out, I want to, one, make sure that you're aware of our existing strategic plan since we've got new members on our committee. So we did send that out and we can discuss it, ask questions, etc. And then our primary goal, at least from my point of view, is to determine if we need to start a planning process now or if we're in a position to extend our plan and look at planning next year or in the future. So I will okay, so our plan was built or was designed for July 2021 through 2024. And was Diane the only member of the committee that was on at that time when we wrote this plan?
Probably.
Yeah. So Diane,
I might actually have been.
Oh, yeah. From it,
okay.
when you were at Niles.
Yeah. You know, we were doing our planning in 2020. It was a time. And, you know, we had some discussions. Should we even be doing a plan? Should we do a 1-year plan? How do we know what our libraries are going to need? So we added a section to the strategic plan, this guiding principles, that kind of, again, like underlie our decision making. So they're not specific goals, but like when we're like, oh, should we do this thing? If it fits these guiding principles, probably we should do the thing. And then our strategic directions here in bold are very broad, and we had sample projects or initiatives under them, but we specifically said every year we'd write new goals and bring those to governing board because we just don't know what the next several years are going to look like. And, you know, they're very broad, and I think we have plenty of work that we can continue to do in any of these goals. We have completed lots of them. You know, we've got a new system in place to manage our training and plan what we're going to offer. Our staff have undergone some pretty significant cross training, and we're going to be doing this year is one of our goals. We've got a really documentation heavy like succession planning goal. We're continuing to build membership and identify libraries that are interested in starting to plan more than 1 year out, which is just nuts to me that we've got. It's amazing, and I'm so happy that we have like a line of libraries that want to talk to CCS. Monica at executive committee yesterday talked again about how data is so important for our libraries, and we need to really be able to help libraries look at data cohesively instead of like piecemeal things. Like, how can we look at a big picture of data, which I thought was a really interesting question. And of course, we want to continue to be fiscally responsible for our members and continue to make CCS a really strong value. We are by far not the least expensive consortium in the state, but we really focus on providing value for the dollars that members are coming in. And we had some questions about, you know, looking towards the future, things that we need to keep thinking about. Is resource sharing going to change? I mean, certainly everything changes, right? Will our libraries truly shifting their collections away from physical, and how sharply? Like, what should we do to respond to that? What do we know about user habits? Or what are they doing? Have holds, you know, we saw a decrease in circulation and an increase in holds as a result of COVID. Is that going to continue? Is that going to change? So I think there's a lot of big questions in the plan. I want to pause here for questions on like the plan itself, and then I'll talk for maybe like 2 minutes about the planning process and how we gather data. So we did not bring a consultant in. The plan prior to this, we had brought a consulting team in. That was just before I started, I believe. Chris Holly worked with, I can't remember their name, but we had consultants in and did a huge planning process. This one, we, you know, wanted to be thorough and in-depth, but didn't bring in a consultant. We had a board self-assessment that was focused on governance, like how does the board feel that they're doing as a board. And then we did a needs assessment survey. And again, it was a time. It was, you know, fall of 2020, and we didn't get a lot of results from the first round of the survey, and had to resend it out to encourage more participation, which I fully understand given that libraries were in crisis mode dealing with a pandemic. So we did end up getting 27 responses. I think we were maybe only missing one library at that time. And what I saw in the results was two main things. Was that our libraries wanted to be more like a cooperative than a utility. And I'll shout out to Sue Reinders for that comparison. Libraries want to be engaged in decision-making and feel like they're part of a community rather than, you know, just paying their CCS bill like they pay their internet bill. And libraries want us to focus on the ILS. There's not, at least in 2020, there was not a big appetite for us to, you know, expand into other things like customer service training or more group purchases or, you know, other non-ILS specific things. So there's a big talk about like data, because that again is coming from the ILS and connecting patrons using the catalog and that user experience, like that all kind of ties in. So we have had turnover at the administrative level. I don't, from where I am sitting, I don't think that a lot of that has changed. And I would feel comfortable and would recommend extending the plan for 1 year. To give us, I mean, CCS is dealing with a staffing issue at this time, which we're on the road to mitigating, which is good. It also, I think, would align better with our current innovative contract expiration, which is 2026. And I have kind of these like notes under key dates that don't really mean anything if you're just reading them. But I think the biggest pain point that we have with Polaris from an administrative point of view is that the pricing just keeps going up, and bringing in new libraries, the cost to bring in the new libraries keeps going up. And so we have done some negotiations and have gotten that kind of documented, what it's going to be for the next 3 years for the remainder of our contract. What I would like to do this fiscal is do some research on what other consortia are paying for Polaris or other products. I do think we have a pretty good deal when it comes to Polaris. It has always been considered like the most expensive ILS. And when we selected Polaris in 2017, there was a very deliberate decision. We're not going to pick the cheapest thing. We're going to pick the thing that's going to be the best for us, which is great. It continues to not be the cheapest, which is also fine. And then I'd like to survey the members on satisfaction with Polaris and include in that the pricing and the value. Again, members pay CCS, but like the ILS is a really significant portion of our costs. And as part of my research, I would be looking to confirm or disprove that the most effective way to see any sort of price mitigation with an ILS vendor is to go to RFP. Robin, I feel you. And so, I mean, I don't want to say I'd be going into an RFP solely to negotiate pricing, but if we have to make them win our business, then we have to make them win our business. And so if the survey comes back and is like, yeah, we feel like we're getting good value, like it's a good product, overall, we're happy. Like, yes, costs have gone up, but costs have gone up for everything. We're fine. And fine, I will negotiate to the best of my ability outside of a process and sign a contract and call it a day. If members are feeling dissatisfaction, then we can look at other steps to take. So from my point of view, I would prefer to do that work before we start a new plan, because if that says we should, again, have them win our business, then I would need to incorporate that into a plan. And that's everything I have to say. But I'm happy to take questions. Again, I feel like you may want some additional information before deciding. I'm happy to look into that. So I will stop.
Just a comment. I think this is all very well thought out. I love a good timeline, and I think aligning it with the, expiration of the Polaris contract is, that's, as you said, it's the number one resource that CCS provides. So I think using that timeline as a structure to build out a new plan, I think makes a lot of sense. And given what we learned yesterday with your staffing issue, I think asking to add, bringing in a new plan on top of that, it feels like a lot. So I think this makes a lot of sense, and very supportive of it.
Can I ask what the staffing issue is? I don't know.
I sent an email to LibAdmin yesterday. Our IT manager had an accident and is unable to work for the foreseeable future. So we are partnering with OSG to provide support for CCS infrastructure. CCS staff will continue to provide all of our library staff Polaris support.
I did not see that. I'll have to look into that.
And I can double check to make sure you're subscribed. I sent it at like 5 yesterday too, so Diane, as our remaining, or maybe Susan, Diane, as those of you who were in our previous process, do you have anything?
Having gone through the same timeline for strategic planning, and actually it was Library Strategies out of St. Paul Public Library that did the previous one. But out of timeline wise, we were on the same timeline and we're doing our strategic plan during 2020. In
I remember
fact,
that.
while we were closed, we were having meetings with Amanda Standifer on Zoom. And we're probably going to be doing the same thing because there's some transit, with the transition of me leaving and Mona coming on, it'll just be easier. So we actually intended to meet this summer and too much going on. So they're going to start up meeting again and revising. And I think that's the best bet during a transition period is to extend it for a year or two. And actually, when we first did ours, that was Amanda's suggestion to change it from a 3-year to a 5-year by reviewing and updating activities underneath the goals. So I think it's a good interim solution.
What you're saying makes sense about it aligning with the Polaris timeline, because that's obviously so central to everything that we think about and do. And I kind of feel like it's up to the executive director to execute the strategic plan. And if you feel like there's still work to be done using that plan, then I am completely behind that.
So in terms of next steps, I think Diane's comment about like updating the activities, since we have completed several of the listed activities. I mean, our plan runs through 2024. So what would you think about meeting again in the first quarter of next calendar year, like sometime in January through March? I'd present the same plan, but with updated activities for your review and then recommendation to the board with the new extension of the date.
I think that's a good plan.
Then I mean, I don't think we need, and Joanne, I'll defer to you. I don't think we need a motion today if we're just saying like, yeah, that's good work, go do that, Rebecca. And then we'll follow up with you, Joanna, first on your availability and then
Yeah,
send out to everyone else.
that sounds very appropriate. Yep.
Then I feel like I have what I need.
All right. Are there any other questions for Rebecca? Okay. Make a motion. I'll make a motion to adjourn long range planning at 10:20. Get a second.
I'll second. Diane.
Thank you. Okay, meeting adjourned.
All right. Thanks, everyone.